as I finish with this particular devotional, I have a story for the kids. And again, Jesus entered Capernaum after some days, and it was heard that he was in the house. So word got out that Jesus was in the house. Immediately, many gathered together. So when word got out that Jesus was in the house, a crowd gathered because they wanted to see Jesus. All right? So that there was no longer room to receive them, not even near the door. So many people gathered. You could not get into the house. So when it mentions the fact that the door was even barred, not because someone put bars there, but because the concentration of people was so thick, you just simply could not get in. And then Jesus preached the word to them. How many of you are familiar with camp meetings, East African style? Camp meeting in Danjua. I've been preaching for days and days and days, and now we're on the closing Sabbath at Danjua. And you know how the people are sitting among the trees. And at the camp meeting at Danjua, the language situation was very interesting. Because Nyancha was it was the heart, basically the capital of Gusii country. But you almost had as many Luos sitting out there as Kisis. So, if I was preaching in English, Pastor Masese was preaching in Kiswahili. However, if Pastor Masese was preaching in Kiswahili, then whoever was translating for him would speak in Gusii. So the main speaker, what language that person used, determined what translation got used. Pastor Masese and I had been preaching. We were now at about a 45, 50-minute mark for translation into this sermon. And I am getting tired. And I am trying to bring this sermon to a close. Peter Chief, the conference president, is sitting back there. It's too early. Go back. Go back. So he could tell that we were landing the plane. He could sense it being an old preacher. He knew we were coming down. And he says, it's too early. Go back, Brother Dupont. Go back. So we went out again and we just started preaching. So we're now at about the hour and 5, hour and 10-minute mark, and I am weary. I can barely stand up. And I am definitely landing this plane. And keep going, Brother Dupont. Keep going. I gave 2 or 3 more sentences, and then I felt I was going to collapse. At that time, I felt a hand on my shoulder, and Peter Chief says, you want me to take it? I stepped back out of the way. Peter Chief stood there and started preaching in Kiswahili, and poor Pastor Masese immediately flipped into Gusii. So he had to translate for both of us, and he and Peter Chief went for another 30 minutes. Folk thought that was the best sermon they'd ever heard. It took 3 preachers to preach it. They thought we had planned that meticulously. No, Peter Chief, he thought I wasn't going to finish that thing right, so he got up to help me. So some interesting things can happen when you go to these camp meetings. And the point I was making is the large number of people. So many people are present at these places. You just have to squeeze yourself in. Here's the key part. Then they came to him, bringing a paralytic who was carried by 4 men. What was the paralytic's problem?
He couldn't bring himself.
Pardon?
He couldn't bring himself.
He could not bring himself. He needed help. And they all knew that help could be found with Jesus. But the paralytic could not get himself to Jesus. You are wanting to birth a new organization, a new entity that cannot help itself. It cannot birth itself. You feel the need for it. You sense the value of it. But yet yet it cannot get itself, it cannot take its first breath. Except as it has friends. This paralytic had 4 friends who carried him where he needed to be. Carried him to Jesus. And this is the purpose that you have labored all these months and weeks. Is it not? Friends of this idea, friends of this concept. How much trouble have you gone through? You know, a paralytic is going to be heavy because he cannot help you carry himself. How many of you parents have carried a sleeping child?
Yeah.
They weigh 3 times as much as one who's awake, right? I don't know what there is about a child once they fall asleep, their weight multiplies. And it's almost impossible to carry them.
Yeah.
So the paralytic, he can't help himself. He can't help his friends. And so his weight is there bearing down on them. But because they are friends, that is not an issue. You have not felt the burden of this to be odorous or obnoxious. But it has been a weight, it has been a challenge, it has been a burden that you felt energized by. You felt compelled to do. Now observe. When the 4 friends got to where they needed to be, where Jesus was, Jesus is right there. But when we say right there, there are walls between the 4 men and their friend, let's say the 5, and Jesus. The bigger problem are the people. Everybody there wants a piece of Jesus. So nobody is prepared to give way. Why should I let you squeeze through when I can't squeeze through? Yeah, I've got some issues too. I want to talk with Jesus about my stuff. So no, I'm not getting out of their way so you can get in to see Jesus and present your issues until after I've had my turn. Now, this man had some good friends. He had some crafty friends who sized up the situation. Let's read it here. It says that when they could not come near him, Jesus, because of the crowd, they uncovered the roof where he was. These fellows climbed up on top of somebody's house. I think it was Peter's house. They climbed up on this house. Now, it's another thing for somebody to be playing around on the roof of your house. But these guys weren't playing. They tore a hole. And when we say a hole, we're not talking about us. The space they made was big enough to lower a bed through.
Wow.
So they did some serious damage to the roof. Notice now, these are friends of the paralytic who are quite focused on their objective, getting their friend at the feet of Jesus. And you see, you have done well. You have done wisely to bring your idea, to bring this thing, to bring this concept and put it at Jesus' feet. Because only his blessing can give life to it. With his benediction, with his grace, with his, let's say, laying on of hands of it, then there is hope. Notice, the man is paralyzed. He's alive. The idea is there, but it can't walk. It can't do anything. And so these friends, you are the friends of this thing, and you are here now to present this thing at the feet of Jesus. And then Jesus says a very interesting thing. Jesus was so off topic. Jesus, well, let's look here. I'm going to read verse 5. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, "Son, your sins are forgiven you." Was he looking for forgiveness of sins, or was he looking for some energy for his legs and his body? Fortunately, Jesus saw the real need. Yes, his physical healing was an issue, but Jesus knew there was a deeper issue, a more significant issue, one that must be addressed first. And as you bring this idea, you're wanting God to purge it of anything that it ought not have associated with it.
Amen.
And so when Jesus said, son, your sins be forgiven you, folk got upset. But immediately when Jesus perceived in his spirit that they reasoned thus within themselves, he said to them, why do you reason about these things in your heart? Which is easier, to say to the paralytic, your sins are forgiven you, or arise, take up your bed and walk? Now, in your estimation, which is the easiest thing to say? Your sins are forgiven. Because you don't have to have any external proof. But if I say, brother, arise, take up your bed and walk, if that man doesn't arise, take up his bed and walk, the joke's on who?
On you.
The joke's on me. So Jesus said, which one is the riskier statement to make? And obviously they knew which was the riskier one to make. And so he then says, but to prove to you that I have not just a power, but the authority to forgive this man's sins. Brother, go ahead. Do it. Get up and walk. And we're told that the folk marveled. They said, we've never seen this before. How many folk have ever heard of a primary school having an alumni association? We haven't seen this before. It's not happened before. We've not seen it on this wise before. Jesus says, your sins be forgiven. Rise, take up your bed and walk. And the man did just that. And so I rejoice that you were friends of this concept, friends of this idea. I celebrate and applaud you for wanting it to be a matter of prayer and commitment to God. And I pray that as you have given this thing to the Lord, that he will indeed purge it, bless it, indict it with life and energy, and let it then become an instrument of blessing for, not because obviously your intent is to be a blessing to the school that mothered you and those little ones who are yet there and who are yet to come through that place, to be a blessing. And I am sure this man, having been blessed of God, given his ability to walk, was a blessing to the community. And so I feel that this organization that you seek to bring into being, it may have a humble beginning. Don't be bothered by that. That man, notice, the larger amount of people were inside the house or outside the house. The largest number were outside. So the minority of people saw the miracle. Few people saw the miracle. Everybody heard about it because the folk outside folk were telling them what was going on, no doubt. And so just a few who managed to squeeze in the house saw what really happened. And so don't be disturbed that they're just a few. Babies grow. You know, but George's mother had no idea when she gave birth to him he was going to get so big. Our parents did not. They had no idea how big we would get, did they? And some of our mothers are small, aren't they? Tiny people. And so babies start out tiny, and they grow. And so this thing will grow with God's blessing. And so I celebrate the fact that we are here. Now, before I give a prayer of consecration to the idea, I do want to give the children a little story. But Mary, do you remember the accident your father had with the train? Now, in case you don't know Mary's father, the brother has some issues. I don't know if he has slowed down, but he is the most hyperactive grown person I have ever known. Am I telling the truth about your father?
You are.
His name is A. Juma Kutondo. The man was just simply hyperactive. He is on his way to Nairobi to attend, I think it was Union Executive Committee. He's going somewhere. He is driving so fast. He is so intent on what he is doing that he doesn't even see the train that's crossing the highway. You know, trains are big. They rumble, they make noise. A. Juma Kutondo, though he was hyperactive, when the brother was focused, he was focused. And he was focused as they drive in that car. He hit that train. The car bounced back about 50 meters, reversed, and went, and it hit the train again, backwards.
Oh my.
Hit it going forward, and hit it. It's just not. And a few hours later, he is sitting up in the executive committee, regaling us with the account. Well, you just did what? You hit the train how many times? The front of your car hit the train, and the back of your car hit the train, and you hit. There wasn't a scratch on it, I don't think. The Lord was good to the brother. The Lord liked him. He was a likable fellow. And so I thank you for letting me tease you a bit. But that was kind of funny. I met Jimmy's grandparents in March of 1975. And this was before his parents got married. And we were living on the campus of Kamagambo. Kamagambo was, at that time, a secondary school, would become a high school, and it was a teacher training college. And your father was in the teacher training program. One of the problems, and I was serving as a pastor of the church at that time. Now, the interesting thing is, I don't think that people realize how young I was. I was 28 years old when we arrived at Kamagambo. And Pastor Kiali, or Charlie, when I went to his office the first day at Kamagambo, he asked, Brother Newborn, is it true that you are an ordained minister? See, I had come to Kamagambo to teach social studies. He says, is it true you are an ordained minister? He asked me that question 4 times, and I just sat there. I'm trying to figure out, I just got ordained. How in the world would he know? But he just kept asking. And so finally I decided I better answer. I said, yes, it is true. I am an ordained minister. He says, oh, that being the case, you will not be teaching social studies. You're going to be teaching Bible, and also you're the church pastor. So I left home as a social studies teacher, and I came back as a church pastor. And so I pastored Kamagambo Church for 3 years and 2 months. Enjoyed it, had a good time. But the people didn't realize the problems the personal problems I had. And teased Juma about Juma having some issues. I had some issues. And to show you the kind of issues I had, and this is for the benefit of the children, cockroaches, you know what cockroaches are. If my mother heard that there was a cockroach out in the lobby out there, when services are over, she heard that a cockroach had been seen out there. When church service was over, we would not be leaving the church going that way. We were going out this door. Now the cockroach was seen an hour ago somewhere out there. But Mama we're not going that way. However, Mama has heard that there is a rattlesnake out in the parking lot. The pastor could be preaching, but the word just came text message just came, girl, there's a rattlesnake out in the parking lot. She, come help me catch it, son. You understand? Sister has some problems. She's scared of what?
Cockroaches.
And there's one out there that she wants me to help her catch. A rattlesnake. That's why I say, sister girl, I love my mom. Mama's now gone, but I love the girl, but she has some issues. The problem with that is I was born with some of that problem, some of those issues. I just always liked snakes. And that got me into a lot of trouble. Here in the U.S., it's okay in the South because we just had a few poisonous snakes. But now you bring somebody who likes snakes to East Africa. The game changes. We've been on holiday, arrived back on the campus of Kamagambo, and as we are coming through the gate, one of the teachers at the elementary school by the name of Mutunga comes, Pastor, please come, there's a snake in my house. Mutunga, how long has the snake been there? Oh, the snake has been there 9 days. Now, we have been gone 10 days. He said, the snake came the day after you left. He's been there 9 days. Well, where have you been living with neighbors? Why haven't you done anything about that snake? We were waiting for you, Pastor. So I says, wait, let me take my family home, put them in the house, and then I'll come back and help you with your snake. And so they all followed me to the house, and I climbed up, I got my bow, got my arrows. I bought these things from a courier, old man, from down towards Victoria Way. And I can't go into too much detail, but the old man that I bought them from was in the category of people who had the maximum access to all the secrets. So there was no class higher than him for mixing these poisons. To show you how deadly the poison was on those tips, you could be in a poison lab of the most sophisticated university medical center. You could scratch yourself here, lay the arrow there, and in 5 minutes you are dead, and there's nothing they can do to save you.
Wow.
A combination of poisons are far more than you can compensate for before the person expires from the mix. That's what those tips were all about. And so I kept them locked up way up high. So we got those arrows, got my bow, got a spear. I think, why did you get a gun? Guns are unlawful in Kenya. So you couldn't have a gun. And so we're on our way to Mudunga's house to deal with this snake. And on the way I'm asking, what kind of snake it is? Oh, it's a black snake, a big black snake. Now mind you, I'm a novice, I'm new there. And I'm thinking, oh, it must be a black mamba. Mind you now, black mambas have their name because of what is black. The inside of their mouth is black. That's where the mamba is a kind of cobra, but it gets the name black from the color of its mouth more than the color of the outside. But I didn't know that then. So I'm thinking this snake must be a black mamba. Since it's a black snake, it's a black snake. By the time we get to Mudunga's house, somebody's got the spear, somebody has the bow, somebody has the arrows, and I have a stick about this long. I need to tell you where we're going. Just at the gate of Kamagambo, near where the administration building was, on one side of the street was a primary school called Rio City. On the other side of the street was a primary school called Sari. So those two schools were less than 50 feet apart from each other, their campuses. But one there, one there. And Mutunga was a teacher at Rio City. When we came into his sitting room, sure enough, there was this snake curled around a post in the far corner. Black snake. Now, the two people that I remember who were with me that day, there were at least 7 men who were with me. So I was the 8th, and I was the young. James O'Baker was younger than me. So I think some of you know James O'Leary. And the other person is now deceased that I remember, Moses Oketch. Mr. Oketch was there with me. And there was, of course, Mutunga was there. And then you had these other guys. I'm going to give you the short version of the story. The snake had gotten so accustomed to nobody being in that room that he was totally sound asleep. Mutunga insisted that he was going to shoot the snake because now he is arguing me, it's my snake, it's in my house. I'm going, well, if it's your snake, if it's in your house, why did you wait for me to come home? Right. All this business. Now you got your courage back. Okay, it's your snake, you shoot it. So he took the bow and arrow and he went up and he fired this arrow into this snake. And the first thing the snake wanted to know was who did it. And nobody confessed. So just imagine, you see how the roof of the church slants down this way? Just imagine that you're inside of a house and the roof does the same thing. And beyond this wall, you just extend that roof. And on that side of the wall, you made a house for your chickens. That's where Mutunga's chickens were over there. So that if I walked into that room, this is as tall as I could stand up because of the way the roof came down. In that room, you had chickens, you had chicken feed, and where you have chicken feed, you have rats. And where you have rats, you have snakes. So the snake was living in the Gamo Hilton. Full board. He'd come down, eat, go back up, sleep. It was living an easy life. When Mutunga shot him, and he realized that so many of us were in, he went over into that particular section. We ran around the back, and now we're behind the house, and the snake at that point was still up above me. I walked directly against the wall, directly under the snake, trying to get it to strike. But it wouldn't. And then it did something that helped me to recognize that I had made a serious mistake coming to the aid of Mutunga. The snake looped down and spread its head. It was a cobra. It was a kind that spits. And I thought, oh. But we were in it, so we had to stay there with it. The snake goes back now inside the chicken coop. So we run around the house, we open the door, and we come in. It's me and 7 other men. So there are a total of 8 of us men in that room. The snake is still on the back wall. I go all the way back there, and they said they were coming with me. I was so intent on what was going on back there, I did not notice what these other men were doing. I thought I had pinned the snake on the wall because my goal was to catch it. I didn't want to kill it, I wanted to catch it. So I thought I had it pinned down, and then as I was trying to figure out where I was going to grab it, I noticed this end was moving. That's okay, that's all right. But then that end was moving too. How could both ends be moving at the same pace if I'm holding it still in the middle? So that's when I realized, no, I don't have it pinned down. And at that point, the snake realized something that I had not yet realized. Snake realized advantage snake. Why? It was one snake, one man. The other men were gone. I didn't know that. The snake got on the central beam of the room and started crawling directly and deliberately toward me. And I am backing up, trying to make it stop, and it just keeps crawling. And I'm giving out instructions, Mr. O'Gets, do this, Omega, do this, and nobody's doing anything. I can't do it. All of my instructions are being ignored. I didn't know they were gone at that point. And then I bumped into the wall. And out of the corner of my eyes, I kind of got it. Nobody was there. They were gone. I was so scared I wanted to run. I really wanted to run, but it's good I didn't try to run. I was praying that my mother would come to my help. My grandmother, who was dead, I almost called on her. I almost. Fortunately, I stopped short of that. But I was in desperate help. I was in desperate trouble. I needed some help. I knew that the first one to make a mistake was going to die.
Yeah.
That was clear to me. And so I said, I've got to be steady. I've got to hold it together. And here I am, back up against the wall, standing like this. And when I stopped backing up, the snake stopped moving forward. Oh. He anchored himself on the beam and dropped down, and our faces were this close to each other. About 30 inches. And it was just... And I would act like I was going to hit it, and he would jump back like this, and he would act like he was going to strike, and also we just danced a little step in, a little step back. You know, we were talking about dancing with wolves. I danced with the cobra. We had a real good thing going there. But you see my hair, how gray it is? I think it must have turned gray that day. I just rejoiced that it didn't turn blue, because it was terrible. So we just kept, I am sure this whole face-to-face encounter could not have lasted more than 2 minutes, but it seemed like an eternity. At some point, someone threw a rock, and the rock landed on that body roof, that tin roof, behind the snake, up above him. And then the snake did something that was absolutely terrifying and beautiful. With the speed of lightning, that snake turned and, going on sound alone, struck at the very spot that stone had hit. I mean, it was mesmerizing seeing the speed with which it just looped around and started going up. But as it had turned its back on me and was going up, I recognized mistake, snake. Advantage, newborn.
Yeah.
Go for it. And that's when I noticed I can't really stand up. I'm down like this, and I just lunge toward the snake. I have got to hit this snake while it is distracted, striking up. But the snake was thinking. He recognized that I was still in the room. He stopped striking up, looked down and saw me coming, and immediately changed his direction. And at this point, I am now directly underneath him. And with all of that speed that he struck up, he is now striking down. And here I am, basically floating toward him, getting even closer. And he was aiming for right here. And I'm just